Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. Welcome. As I say, it's an absolutely fantastic turnout tonight. We're delighted that so many people have come along. A further demonstration of the great support for Charlton. Just to go through a little bit of the sort of what's going to happen through the evening. We've got a few people who are going to speak first of all. We'll be introducing those one by one, aiming for about 3 minutes each, because we've obviously got to get through the evening as quickly as we can, and we want to get to the point where we open up the opportunity for anybody in the room who wants to. We've got roving microphones, so we will be picking out speakers. Just a few points about that, and there are some things on the table about this. Obviously, first of all, please be respectful and nothing offensive, nothing racially abusive, etc. We'll ask people, it's going to be a bit difficult to ask them not to be repetitive, because I guess there's going to be a few themes that come through the evening pretty consistently, but obviously if someone has just made a particular point, we would ask the next person not just to repeat it, because that's wasting a bit of time. The purpose of the meeting towards the end, and we haven't got a set finish time, but the idea later in the evening is to take a pause and to attempt to get some sort of consensus for what we do next. And I guess that will range from not doing anything, and if some people feel is the right action, to doing things that would be, the club I'm sure would not consider to be terribly productive or they certainly wouldn't want to see. And they say, the whole purpose of this is it's an open evening, we're open-minded about where we end up. Just a few bits of housekeeping. Fire escapes, the red doors over there, and the red doors there, and of course the doors that you came in. The Charlton Athletic Supporters Trust has put on this evening, and as such we've spent about £600. We'd like the collection to go around to recover some of that. We've already got some, I think. We have a very attractive Mr. Wiseman here and his canvas bag. If we receive more than £600 through the evening, the balance beyond that will be given to Charlton Upbeats. So we will sort of cap it at 600 and obviously give the rest to the Upbeats. If you wish to join the trust tonight and not a member, Matt's sitting up there, his arms aloft, so we just scored a goal. Anyone can remember that? He's the man to see at the table there. Wendy is somewhere selling Voice of the Valley, if people are interested in that. Wendy in the middle here, if anyone needs to catch a voice and didn't get one on Saturday. I think that's probably about it. Okay, anything I've forgotten? Oh, we also, we will be tweeting throughout the evening on the Charlton Twitter account. We will not be tweeting direct quotes of what people say, but obviously they will be themes. And if people come up with ideas, they may well go on there. So just bear that in mind. We do have some press here, and we're very grateful for them, and thank you very much for coming along and supporting us. We've been having some great support from the BBC, as some of you will have seen. They've also agreed to broadcast the outcomes of this tomorrow morning on the BBC London News. So again, we've got some further coverage there. And I guess we get going. So we've got a group of speakers. We're going to go in alphabetical order. So we have Deepa Doyle, so Jeff Doyle, who runs the Essex Addicts, who will now address us.
My name is Jeff Doyle. I don't currently have the Essex branch. There was a number of us that were getting from Is that any better? Yes. Okay, I'll start again. I used to help a small group of people running the Essex branch, which fell away a little bit a few years ago, but we're still keeping in contact. And I was asked recently by the trust if I could come along and say, what the views of the people that I'm still in contact with. And there are quite a number of people that I'm in contact with. And I've made a different ploy to go and talk to these people to find out what they think about the current situation. I've been asked to say what people think about the ownership, how they feel, and what we can do. I've got to say I was a bit surprised. Not that everyone's happy, but because everybody was not happy, the fact is that a lot of people I've spoken to earlier in the season were quite optimistic about the trust, about the networking arrangements. But I've got to say that recently people have lost a lot of faith, changed their minds. Roman, it seems, the views are that you're probably more interested in the balance sheet than what goes on the pitch. And I think fundamentally what people are saying is that we've lost ambition from the club. If there's any ambition at all, it's perhaps to have the best balance sheet in the league rather than the best team in the league. There's no stability amongst the players, clearly with the managers or team coaches as it now is. There's a feeling that there's far too much interference, obviously, from the owner. And a general feeling that really, if this networking thing is to work, people can see that there is some advantage in trying to balance the books. What business wouldn't want to do that? But perhaps the new regime has underestimated the quality of the championship football. And some of the players that are coming in, quite honestly, I'm not sure how many of these are on loan, how many of them we actually bought, how much they cost. There's a complete disalienation from the club. But they've underestimated the quality of the league. We're certainly not getting the players in that was required for this level of football. I think what surprised me most is the degree of apathy now that amongst people that I've been going to football with for quite a number of years. A lot of people don't go now. People are saying that they've lost the sense of belonging to the club. We're not here to parade how long we've been going. We've all got the club apart here, but it is a fact now that I think sometimes we're going over there thinking, what do I belong to here anymore? The players are all different, there's lots of changes, there's no sense of shared ambition. I can't think that they'll go over there thinking, great, here's another youngster coming through, we're going to make a really good balance sheet at the end of the season. What you want is a sense of ambition for the club. We want to win something, we want to be successful, we want to be able to compete, and all that sense seems to have gone. And I mentioned just now that people at the start were saying, well, we've got to give you a chance. You know, we can see why you want to break even, you don't want to make losses. Of course, that all makes good business sense. But even the owners sort of sympathised at the beginning of the season have now lost patience, saying that, you know, really, they're losing faith completely. So what can we do? Roman seems to be blunt, he's a stubborn old man. He's clearly a very successful businessman, but we're not sure whether that sort of can stretch to the football world. But what we can do is perhaps people say, it's got to start with communication. We've got to have a sensible dialogue going. We've got to understand what his plans are for Charlton, what are his ambitions. One day, whatever, there'll be more interviews than that coming up here today, I'm sure. But at the end of it, at some stage, this owner will move on, and I'd like to think that supporters, maybe through the trust or through whoever, can actually be in a position so that we can actually influence who comes in next, so that we're not in this position again in the future.
Right, moving straight on, someone who needs little introduction to Charlton fans, Voice of the Valley editor, former club employee, Rick Everett.
Well, here we are again, 25 years on. I never thought we would get to a time when I'd meet so many committed Charlton supporters who were shrugging their shoulders and saying, I don't feel it's our club now, I don't even want to come anymore. And that's what worries me. If you're not one of those people, then fair enough. But don't let's pretend that they aren't out there in their hundreds, maybe in their thousands. So I don't want us to do anything tonight, or in the weeks ahead, that makes that situation any worse. But what is the problem? It's that many people who've given decades of support in Charlton don't understand what the owner's vision is. They don't like what they think it is, and they don't believe that his actions will achieve it anyway. So what should we be looking to achieve? For me, it's to end that alienation, it's to infuse again all the people who support Charlton, and it's to find a way that allows us all to work together again to make the club the best it can be. Now, it won't surprise you that at this point I'm sceptical that this could be done under Roland Duchâtelet, but actually there's no reason why it can't, if he's willing to enter into a partnership towards success on the pitch. And actually that partnership already exists. We enter into it freely each time we spend money with the club or time travelling to away matches. It's just that our part in funding the club and supporting the club isn't being respected at the moment. My own frustration over the last 14 months is that after the previous ownership, it would have been very easy to put things right. Not only the Supporters Trust, but any number of other individuals with experience of the business have offered Catherine Meara the chance to engage privately in order to share ideas. Not because they have a sense of entitlement, not for money, not necessarily because they have a unique insight, not even because they want to be in the know, but because they care passionately about the club and they see the damage that is being done to everything that's been achieved over the last 25 years. Now, I watched last night's video, the video of last night's meeting, and once again we got the mantra about communicating via the fans forum and speaking to every supporter, not just a few. That's the fans forum, by the way, which met 3 times in 2014. The vast majority of supporters are not represented at the fans forum by anyone. Indeed, I talk to some of the people who do attend, and they tell me they think the club is paying lip service to them there as well. So our argument's not with them. But why won't Catherine engage with anyone who has been there and done it? It's been suggested in some quarters that the club was run in the past as if it was some kind of social enterprise, and the new owner was just introducing proper business practices. That's quite insulting to the previous directors and ignorant of what was achieved. The reality is that supporters made robust business cases for initiatives like Target 10,000, Valley Express and Football for a Fiver, and that's why they were taken forward. It's when the club doesn't engage that you get silly arguments like the coaches themselves need to break even, or that we should look to South West London for new supporters instead of our traditional catchment area. If you watch the video of last night's VIP meeting, you'll see perfectly sensible questions being asked, for example about the threat posed by West Ham's move to the Olympic Stadium, with no credible answer from Catherine because she doesn't have one. And then you can see for yourselves the shambles that they've made of the programme sales in an effort to save a few £100, or a ticketing policy that allows you to pay £150 for a season ticket and sit in a £450 seat.
Yes.
Now, probably none of that would matter much if they got things right on the pitch, but they haven't. And it's when things go wrong with the football that you need that loyalty and sense of togetherness to fall back on. Even if you accept Katrine's account of events around the change of head coach, the presentation of it was a shambles from start to finish. Yet there hasn't been the slightest acknowledgement that they got that wrong from the club. There are plenty of people who know that Chris Powell has given instructions about who to play in the team. So the problem when she says that there are no puppets at Charlton is that some of us can see the strings. When she tells us that she isn't a liar, but that Alex Dyer, Bob Peters and Mircea Rebic are former employees, we have to decide who to believe. Because the reality is, she is the only one being paid to take up a position on this matter. In the short term, the most important thing is that the team stays up. And like Benny, I think Tony might just give us a chance for that. But we won't really know that until we've seen the result of the next few games. In the medium term, the club is talking about investment in facilities at the Valley and Sparrow Lane, with the curious undertone that the purpose of coming to football is to meet family and friends in a nice atmosphere. Personally, I'd probably go to the pub if that was what I wanted on a Saturday afternoon. It'd be a lot less expensive. What I want is to understand the football that I'm watching as part of a narrative in which the club gets stronger year by year and eventually challenges for the Premier League. What I'm hearing is a set of naive messages about breaking even in the Championship by increasing commercial revenue and cutting costs, with some hopes pinned on getting the shop back. I don't think the shop should be outsourced personally, but under the present arrangement the club gets $150,000 a year. The reason it was outsourced is because it was struggling to make a profit at all. In short, it isn't going to be a game changer. And as much as the extra money for the Premier League TV deal might be welcome, it is very likely to make the Championship even more competitive, which means that player wages will rise in proportion. The only way that you can get closer to break even is to spend less on players' wages. That, I suggest, is what Roland has been trying to do, and you've seen the effect. Finally, they said last night that the plans for the training ground will go forward in 6 weeks. Well, I think we would all applaud such an investment in young players, but is it going to happen this time? At the end of 2013, the club had a viable £5.5 million scheme that would have cost it nothing, because it was all covered by external grants and match funding. That funding package is no longer in place, and even if something might be forthcoming, we're told last night that the new scheme now costs more than £10 million. Well, fair play to Roland if he's going to put that kind of money on the table. But I can tell you for certain that he's not going to get that amount of extra value in terms of the things he wants to add, even if he can get them past the planners. In other words, it's not very good business. So what can we do? Anyone coming tonight for a quick fix solution is going to be disappointed. At the same time, getting organised and showing the strength of feeling is the start of the process. If we'd listened to the naysayers in 1985, or even in 1990, we'd never have stood candidates in the local elections, never raised £1 million by the Valley Investment Plan, never got back to the Valley, and never got to the Premier League. We may no longer have a model club, but history tells us that Charlton supporters can organise and make a difference. There's still no reason why that can't be by working together with the present owner, because it's not us who has closed that door. But if ultimately it does become clear that we have to get rid of Du Châtelet, we shouldn't be daunted by that challenge, because we have shown that we can play the long game too, and in the end our passion and determination can move mountains, and I believe we can do it again if that's what it takes.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Next we have Kevin Besser from the Forum Into the Valley.
I might as well give up now. And thank you, Rick. People may know Rick and I have had little disputes and arguments and technical disputes really about what's going on in Charlton. And I won't bore you with all the history and stuff, but for the first 9 months, one, I could take it that if Pal went, we were bottom of the league and it was a problem and I could see us going down. Riga came in and did a fantastic job. But then Riga didn't get the job. Then Peters comes in, decent players come in, and I could see it straight away. We started playing good football. I went to Brentford away, and it was a bit, it was scary because we weren't very good, but we got away with it and we got better and better and we got results, unbeaten. So we're doing alright. So who cares about what's going on in the background? But basically then Peters goes. Look what happens. Oh, there's a magical shortlisting and interviews. I'll tell you what, Riga was interviewed for that job, and if he wasn't, why not? Why didn't he get the job? If he was good enough, he should have got the job, because then there would be some kind of bond, not just for people here, but for everyone, for the players most importantly, the ones that got us out of trouble last season. And that's what it's about. We're not trying to win Champions League or whatever, we're trying to build a club, and that means players, management, back of house, front of house, and the fans all pulling together in one direction. So we then don't get Riga, and then a week later Riga turns up at Liège. It's just, he's rotating people all over the place, and he's doing it, it's like he's playing Football Manager. It's not good. And whether he sells players for big money or not, he's not building anything that makes sense to the fans. And the Ainge fans are just completely pissed off about the whole thing. They've seen 25 million euros worth of talent being sold. Now, I subscribed to it initially because I thought, as long as players can keep coming in and improving, it's good. But it's fairly obvious at this stage that the goal is not to get to the Premier League straight away. The goal is not to take the fans on board. We're in the periphery, and that's a bit ironic considering Rick and all the other people that were involved that got the Valley Party going and got the whole club back on its feet. We can't just ignore that and expect nothing to happen. Now, I came here with a brief from a few people on Into the Valley because I post on there occasionally, and the simple thing that people said was, hold up, as an example, what are the Pozzo family doing? I have no problem with networks, I have no problem with players coming in between clubs. The Pozzo family have taken over Watford, they had Vidra in there. I watched him playing for Watford in the playoff final when those horrible people from South London won and got into the Premier League. And we see Watford again are up there with Vidra and Deeney and whatever, because we can all see how big the money is in the Premier League. And it doesn't matter if you get relegated, because now with the new media deal, with the parachute money, it's 150 million quid. And that sets the whole club up for life. So why are we messing around with, as it was mentioned, changing programme sellers, messing around with £100 season tickets, messing around with this, that and the other, and gently easing all of the ideas, all of the staff and everyone that wants to build it as a club, easing them away, and then turning around saying, actually we're not going to talk to the organisation that has over 1,000 members and 5,000 email and Twitter followers. I was part of the team that set up the trust, worked with Barney and Craig and all the others. We got the trust off the ground. It had 100 people at the lodge, including Rick and a few others, and we had 500 people on the first survey. 500 people, so what? Within a year, we had it up to 5,000 contacts and 1,000 members. We got through the turnover, and I'll tell you, the takeover rather, and I'll tell you what, it was a lot easier, and nearly swore that it was a lot easier dealing with the old owners than it is dealing with today's.
Kevin, thank you very much. Next we have on behalf of the Trust, Craig Sloman.
I'm glad I didn't have to follow Rick Everett. That would be like Reza Giginit having to follow Jan, which actually happened. Yes, I'm here on behalf of the Supporters Trust. What I'm hoping to do is articulate some of the reasons that we thought this incredibly well-attended meeting was the right thing to do, and hopefully you'll agree by the time you walk out those doors back into recently gentrified Woolwich and hopefully enjoy some of the fantastic pubs that we have here now. Yeah, I'm from the Supporters Trust, and the aims and objectives of the Supporters Trust include pursuing all avenues available to give the fans and every single person in this room, whether you're a member or not, a voice and a representation within the interests of the running of our football club. As Kevin said a second ago, that seemed to be a lot easier under the last administration, which is funny because nobody had a good word to say about them at the time, but yeah, better than we know. In accordance with those objectives, we feel it's incredibly important to build a relationship and a dialogue with the club, so we can try to represent the wishes and views of our members and, where permitted, the wider fan base from an independent point of view. It's that independence which makes us slightly different to the fans forum, which Katrien mentioned last night in the VIP meeting. We are a supporter and a participant in the fans forum, but fans forum exists at the will of the club. And that's been demonstrated because it's been cancelled and postponed multiple times in the fairly recent past. We've been trying to achieve this dialogue with the club primarily with Katrien, and to be fair, it's been with limited success. Any discourse that we've had has been achieved solely on their terms and solely to further their interests. For instance, we helped push the last Football for a Fiver game. We mobilised a large number of our supporters. We were able to distribute thousands of flyers across Charlton's heartlands, South East London, North West Kent, not South West London, as people might have you believe now. At the time, we hoped this was the beginning of a meaningful relationship and a strong showing of what the club and the trust could achieve if we talked to one another. Since then, Catriona has made it clear that she does not want to show a preference for a particular fan group over another, and therefore will not develop any sort of strong relationship with the trust. Whilst we understand this position of not picking favourites, we think what it translates to is not forming a proper relationship with any part of our supporter base. And I think that that's the main reason that we feel, as a supporters base, as a supporter group, feel disengaged with our club now. And I don't think that we've ever felt as alienated from our football club at any point since we returned to the Valley. It's our belief that whilst the jury is out on this particular model of football club ownership, if it is to work, it will only do so by being more open and more honest with fans, and by having an unclear business plan, which I feel we have at the moment, whose goals and measures of success are also unknown, leaves a vacuum of knowledge that will only be filled by speculation and mistrust. This cannot be good for our club, and as fans, we are the primary stakeholders who deserve a greater understanding of Charlton's place in Roland de Châtelet's business plan. We believe that we now have exhausted all options realistically available to us to establish a line of communication with Catriona. We have the option of seeking a direct dialogue with Roland de Châtelet. However, Catriona made it clear last night at the VIP meeting that she saw herself as the only conduit for advanced dialogue with the ownership regime. We are aware that seeking a direct dialogue with the Châtelet could result in the same situation we find ourselves in right now, and an alternative option would be to take further action on behalf of our members and to fulfil the three aims of the Supporters Trust. We've called this meeting to better gauge the opinions and views of our fan base in a wider perspective, and we look forward to hearing what people have to say in the second half of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. I wasn't sure whether Steve Dixon is going to say something. Steve, he's around somewhere, I know. No, it doesn't look like it. Oh, here he comes, sorry. How could I miss him? Thank you. I got used to the applause, I must be honest. And I'd echo as well, I'm glad I didn't have to follow Rick. Listen, I haven't got any prepared notes, and I'm not planning on making a speech or keeping it very long. I've simply got a couple of very, very quick observations to make, and one of them is what I think is a very credible threat to the future of the club. Because when I look around this room, I don't know where the next generation of Charlton fans is coming from, so I'm seeing an awful lot of faces that I saw 25 years ago, not so far from here, and most of them are about my age, probably isn't a good factor. I've only really got one thing to say, and it's more of a question rather than a statement, and it's this. Do you want to support an independent football club, or do you want to support the London franchise of the European Sports Network? You'll hear a lot of people saying about various parts of the network and the standard of players that are coming. I'm bluntly not interested. I want Charlton to be an independent club, which of course means making good decisions and bad decisions, and we've seen plenty of those over the years, but independently made and for the right reasons, and those reasons are for the good of the football club and not the wider network as a whole. So that's all I've really got to say, and my question is quite simply, do you want to support an independent football club or the London franchise of the European Sports Network? I'm certainly in the camp that says I want Charlton to be independent. It's my view, therefore, that the purpose of this conversation should be investigating ways and means to persuade Mr. Châtelet to sell up and leave.
Thank you.